So now that I got the post underway, I thought I would make a couple of legs so that I could get started on that and actually have them attached to the post and work on that, as well as use them for samples for carving. I've got a lot of carving to do. So I made this template from the full-size drawing, and I bought some 12-quarter poplar here, and you can see the template laying on there. We got an extra 7/8 of an inch here, which will become a sliding dovetail that we've got to put in the middle here. That'll be how it's attached to the post. So the front shape of the thing is you need 2 9/16 here for the ball and claw, but I don't know if you can see that too well on the screen, but it needs to be 1 5/8 here. It'll be 1 3/4 there, 1 7/8 there, and 2 1/8 up there. So you can see the line tapering outward there on both of them. And this action in this area here, it's actually a round foot. So I've got a lot of material to take off here. I could do it on the bandsaw. I could do it with spoke shaves, etc. But that's the next thing. I'll probably make a template of this shape here so that I can lay it on the good mahogany when I cut them out. So that's the next step. Well, after turning 2 good ones, this is the poplar one here, and that's the mahogany one in the back there. The next step that I did in making the post here was to put the dovetail. We need to make a sliding dovetail here for the 3 feet that we're going to put on it. And of course you could do it by hand, but I decided to do it the 20th century way or 21st century way and use the router. So I have this box. I used to do it right on the lathe, but I don't have the lathe anymore. That's over at Dave Fiola's house. But this is from the book that I showed earlier, Tom Heller's creation here, and it works very well. We just got some scrap plywood, and it's a 5x5 square. You have this support at the end of it, and that keeps it square this way, and then of course it sticks out in a hole that we left on. And then you have your dovetail, and that was done before the first one was made. This screw here is used to hold it in place while you're working on it. So the pattern, and of course this is exactly the size of the router base so that it's not sloppy, and then this piece here stops it at the appropriate place. This piece down here is so you can clamp it down to the bench so it's not swinging around. And again, from the full-size drawings, you make a template of where the 3 dovetails need to be so that you can put it onto the bottom here and scribe it out and line it up. And it's pretty quick work to just run the, of course I use a couple of routers hogging out the bulk of the material first before we get to this is a 7/8 inch dovetail. So before we get to that, we've removed most of the material from smaller bits. So after doing that, we've got 3 dovetails sockets on here, and they're marked out. I have to do it yet on the mahogany one. So this was real handy and saved me some time. And that's going to roll off no matter what I do with it. So then once, again, using the full-size drawing, I made the template for the leg, and I cut them out on the bandsaw, as you saw before. You can see them here. The legs are tapered. You can see from top to bottom there, the lines on this one. I made a template again, only I made this template from the first one that I marked out. And it's just a vinyl, piece of vinyl from a craft store. But since I got to do several of them, this allows me to mark them out. And then I take the bandsaw, whoop, and trim them down. Now they're still not to shape. I mean, this all has to be worked yet, and we'll do some of that later. So then the next thing is to put the dovetail on the back here. And that I do by hand. And so that's what we'll look at next. So now that we got the sockets into the base of the post, they're of course 7/8 of an inch wide down here at the bottom and 7/8 of an inch deep. So I've got to match that on the back of the leg. So I'm going to do that manually. So this is not going to change unless we really want to mess with it. It doesn't. This can change. So if we made it a slightly larger, that we can trim it down with carving chisels or whatever to make it fit snugly in there. So I think I've made a couple of them now and I'm getting better at it, but the secret to it is to have a template that is exactly the size of the post here. It's got to be exactly the size. So that allows us to transfer the shape to the back of the legs here. This is 2 1/8 wide, and this curve here is the curve that matches up here. Here's your 7/8 of an inch dovetail there. It's marked both top and bottom. So what we're going to do is take a saw and saw along these lines just like we would a regular dovetail in cabinet making. And remember that the line is not part of the waist, so we got to leave the line because that was marked to fit in there. So we need to leave the line. So we'll be sawing on this side of the line, that side of the line, and then this is the edge of the curve here, and we can either saw straight across here, or we can try it on the bandsaw and still rough it in there. It's just a matter of how much waste we want to take off with the chisels. And since this is end grain, it's kind of tough to shave that off. So right now we're going to just saw down on the dovetail. We're getting there. This side's done and about half done there. So now comes the interesting part. So this is a jig that I use for cutting out bracket feet. You know, you can stand them on end and make sure that it's parallel. So this is parallel to the table, and of course this is a nice flat surface to maintain that. So you can move it around and maintain it. What's important, of course, is that we want to saw straight along this edge here and then follow the curve that's in here. And we won't go all the way to the line there, leaving us some to clean off. Now we could cut with the handsaw straight across that curve and then carve out the rest. So this is just saving me some time, and you need to be careful. So you got to make sure that the blade is parallel to the surface, so it's nice and tight and square up there. And then I've got the vacuum shut off now, so maybe you can hear a little bit, but so this is the piece after just taken right off the saw, the bandsaw, and trying to get as close as I can. You can see I left the line here, so it's not overly curved. It is curved somewhat, but this would have to come off for sure. This side has a less, I would say that's around a 32nd or maybe even a 64th. So they both have some to come off, but I just thought I'd check it to make sure that it's not too small already. And I could force it down in there, but the dovetail would not reach the bottom, only because of this here. So what I'm going to do is take it out and start to pare that off with the carving chisel. So this is the leg that we just cut out on the bandsaw, and I had left this area here a little flat. This one was sharper in there, but in any case I wanted to leave the line. I took a 1/2 inch off of here, chopped it out with a chisel, because this is a stopped dovetail there, and we need a 1/2 inch. So it was obviously it was too thick and not curved enough when I started. So what did I do? I used a carving chisel here, one of these, to carve this out. Now this is all end grain in here, so it's real difficult to carve. And I also used a files and rasps to narrow down this and to hollow this out to match the curve that there is. It took me about an hour. I worked at it real slow, because if you take off too much, then it doesn't work at all, which I've done before. So it's pretty tight. And this is about as good as I've done so far. This side here, definitely, it does wiggle a little bit, but that's pretty good. This side here is out a little bit, but was much better than I have been doing. So maybe one more practice to get it right, but it's coming along. Starting to shape the legs now. At this point it's supposed to be round. Starting to look like a leg. So now that we have shaped the leg here and gotten it pretty well where it needs to be, it's time to turn our attention to carving the foot. And we won't look at this one, but we're going to start doing some carving, so that'll be in the next video.